come down here and challenge us.
When we talk about the young men in this town and the young women in this town that are being killed, they're not being killed by people who are wearing Klan hoods and running around here screaming, "Kill blackies." They're being killed by people that look like them. Our education rates, our literacy rates, our suspension rates, the school to prison pipeline, these are real issues. As city council members, do what's right by the people.
I dare you come down here and challenge us.
As I've driven around this city, my twin brothers come down from New York. It is a palpable sense of desperation that young people feel in this city and some folks feel here.
Don't blame me.
Nothing will change in this town or any other unless you all stand up and vote and you all as elected officials do what's right by them.
I dare you come down here and challenge us.
When we talk about the young men in this town and the young women in this town that are being killed, they're not being killed by people who are wearing Klan hoods and running around here screaming, "Kill blackies." They're being killed by people that look like them. Our education rates, our literacy rates, our suspension rates, the school to prison pipeline, these are real issues. As city council members, do what's right by the people.
I dare you come down here and challenge us.
As I've driven around this city, my twin brothers come down from New York. It is a palpable sense of desperation that young people feel in this city and some folks feel here.
Don't blame me.
Nothing will change in this town or any other unless you all stand up and vote and you all as elected officials do what's right by them.
I dare you come down here and challenge us.
When we talk about the young men in this town and the young women in this town that are being killed, they're not being killed by people who are wearing Klan hoods and running around here screaming, "Kill blackies." They're being killed by people that look like them. Our education rates, our literacy rates, our suspension rates, the school to prison pipeline, these are real issues. As city council members, do what's right by the people.
I dare you come down here and challenge us.
As I've driven around this city, my twin brothers come down from New York. It is a palpable sense of desperation that young people feel in this city and some folks feel here.
Don't blame me.
Nothing will change in this town or any other unless you all stand up and vote and you all as elected officials do what's right by them.
All right, peace and love, folks. We're going to be getting started here real shortly. This thing on for a few moments. We're going to be getting things kicked off. We're going to have the premiere of the Rocky Mount story starting at 8 p.m. Hit that share button for us real quick. We're going to be getting started in about 6-7 minutes. Do us a favor, hit the like, follow, subscribe. Stay tuned. We're going to get started promptly 8 p.m. right here on the Urban Conservative. We got the premiere of the Rocky Mount story dropping tonight. So please do us a favor. Hit the like, follow, subscribe. We appreciate it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Change in this town or any other unless you all stand up and vote and you all as elected officials do what's right by them.
I dare you come down here and challenge us.
When we talk about the young men in this town and the young women in this town that are being killed, they're not being killed by people who are wearing Klan hoods and running around here screaming, "Kill blackies." They're being killed by people that look like them. Our education rates, our literacy rates, our suspension rates, the school to prison pipeline, these are real issues. As city council members, do what's right by the people.
I dare you come down here and challenge us.
As I've driven around this city, my twin brothers come down from New York. It is a palpable sense of desperation that young people feel in this city and some folks feel here.
Don't blame me.
Nothing will change in this town or any other unless you all stand up and vote and you all as elected officials do what's right by them.
come down here and challenge us.
When we talk about the young men in this town and the young women in this town that are being killed, they're not being killed by people who are wearing Klan hoods and running around here screaming, "Kill blackies." They're being killed by people that look like them. Our education rates, our literacy rates, our suspension rates, the school to prison pipeline, these are real issues. As city council members, do what's right by the people.
I dare you to come down here and challenge us.
As I've driven around this city, my twin brothers come down from New York. It is a palpable sense of desperation that young people feel in this city and some folks feel here.
Don't blame me.
Nothing will change in this town or any other unless you all stand up and vote and you all as elected officials do what's right by them.
Just because you're black doesn't mean you have to vote Democrat. This year, in order to see benefits for our communities, we need to vote outside the box. Find out more by visiting us at tuconservative.com. Just because you're black doesn't mean you have to vote Democrat. This year, in order to see benefits for our communities, we need to vote outside the box. Find out more by visiting us at tuconservative.com.
I dare you to come down here and challenge us.
When we talk about the young men in this town and the young women in this town that are being killed, they're not being killed by people who are wearing Klan hoods and running around here screaming, "Kill blackies." They're being killed by people that look like them. Our education rates, our literacy rates, our suspension rates, the school to prison pipeline, these are real issues. As city council members, do what's right by the people.
I dare you to come down here and challenge us.
As I've driven around this city, my twin brothers come down from New York. It is a palpable sense of desperation that young people feel in this city and some folks feel here.
Don't blame me.
Nothing will change in this town or any other unless you all stand up and vote and you all as elected officials do what's right by them.
Just because you're black doesn't mean you have to vote Democrat. This year, in order to see benefits for our communities, we need to vote outside the box. Find out more by visiting us at tuconservative.com.
I dare you to come down here and challenge us.
When we talk about the young men in this town and the young women in this town that are being killed, they're not being killed by people who are wearing Klan hoods and running around here screaming, "Kill blackies." They're being killed by people that look like them. Our education rates, our literacy rates, our suspension rates, the school to prison pipeline, these are real issues. As city council members, do what's right by the people.
I dare you to come down here and challenge us.
As I've driven around this city, my twin brothers come down from New York. It is a palpable sense of desperation that young people feel in this city and some folks feel here.
Don't blame me.
Nothing will change in this town or any other unless you all stand up and vote and you all as elected officials do what's right by them. really got all the power? Is it them who got all of the money? Those who really know the truth. Super rich but out here looking hungry. You trying to be king of the corner? Why? Pulling the trigger. Judge start throwing numbers, now you wanna change. What's up with the switch up? Talking about killing, to them real killers come and get you. Now it's pouring out liquor for homie. R.I.P. under all of his pictures. You say it ain't fair, go cry me a river. On time we deliver, for the people it's part of the mission. It's part of tradition, which part is you missing? And from the beginning, we been focused on winning. Ain't no time for the bitching, ain't no time for complaining. Only with the motivation, elevation, if you get what I'm saying. Then came up from the block, that's all I know. Headed to the top, that's all I know. Never gonna stop, that's all I know. This is how we rock, that's all I know. Talk about hard work, that's all I know. Talk about dedication, that's all I know. Talk about motivation, that's all I know. Talk about elevation, that's all I know. All I know, 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 all I know. The Urban Conservative is a platform that my twin brother and I started. It actually came out of a study group that we were doing some years back as we were trying to become more politically aware and engaged. The urban part of the Urban Conservative means two things. One, it comes from the fact that we grew up with hip hop, we live like an urban culture, but it also is an acronym that we came up with that means understanding reality beyond all narratives. Now, some of the narratives we like to tackle are things like America was born in racism, police are out to hunt black men, and that systemic racism by and large is the major reason for conditions of certain communities in our country today.
Video obtained by WRAL appears to show State Auditor Beth Wood being ushered into a law office after she crashed a car into a parked car in downtown Raleigh. Well, these pictures tell us a lot about the crash in downtown Raleigh involving State Auditor Beth Wood.
New video has surfaced of the moments after a hit-and-run crash in downtown Raleigh that police say involved Democratic State Auditor Beth Wood.
But it is now coming out that North Carolina State Auditor Beth Wood was charged with a hit-and-run in Wake County in December and will appear in court on January 26th. She did not return any requests for comments, but Wake County District Attorney Lauren Freeman confirmed that the charges include a Class 2 misdemeanor for a hit and run, but we're gonna keep our eye on this Beth Wood, again, North Carolina State Auditor, charged with misdemeanor, hit and run, leaving the scene of an accident, property damage, and unsafe movement. We'll keep IR on it. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Top of the Morning. Don't go nowhere. If you live in North Carolina, you may or may not have heard about our state auditor getting involved in a hit and run accident, being charged with a misdemeanor, and all that other stuff, right? But one thing I think is interesting is to see the NAACP turning on their own. That's interesting to me. We got a story coming out of the Rocky Mount Telegram here. This is the Rocky Mount Telegram. So it appears the NAACP president here, Mr. Blackwell, a young man you can see there, Cooper Blackwell, he looks like one of those libtard dudes. The Rocky Mount branch of the NAACP is asking for State Auditor Beth Wood to resign. I don't think she cares. Amid the aftermath of news reports of her being charged with a misdemeanor hit and run and cited for unsafe movement, specifically Blackwell said Wood has made a practice of targeting small cities and towns in North Carolina, led by predominantly black elected and appointed officials, with claims of abuse of power and lack of transparency. Matter of fact, I'd like to have Mr. Cooper Blackwell come on the morning show one of these days. If anybody can get us a hold of Cooper Blackwell with the Rocky Mountain NAACP, because I'm definitely interested in having a conversation. I want to know more about this attack, why y'all feel like Beth Wood is going after black folk, and I'd be curious to know if you think she's doing it because she's a racist. All I did was read the story. That was on the screen. Did I make the comment that the young man looks like a libtard? I did. Because you're the chapter president of the NAACP. You're a registered Democrat. You just accused this lady of being a racist. But then what we had to do is we had to go and look, because we got a message. This young man responded with a message to us on our Facebook post about the video. Cooper Blackwell responded with my phone number. Give me a shout, my brother said. So now, we reached out to young Mr. Cooper. My twin brother did and invited him to come on this show this morning, okay? We invited the young man to come on the show this morning because I wanted to hear exactly what Beth Wood did that was racist. I found out that he was talking about this group, Rocky Mount Concerned Citizens. This is the group that he's saying is chock full of white supremacists. So what did I do? Went in there and I said, let me see where the white supremacists are. A man reporting a local story. Somebody shared our show this morning. Anybody know what's happened at West Ridge? I knew the moment about Beth Woods. I'm looking for the white supremacy in this group. I'm looking for it. Where's the white supremacy in this group? I couldn't find it. I can't find it. I looked through the whole group. They actually even shared your black senator in this so-called white supremacist group. That's the group he was talking about was full of white supremacists. Now, what we had to do, we'll do a little digging. Just do a little looking around, connect some dots.
So that episode is interesting. It went on for about 2 hours, and we began to superficially connect the dots about what was going on there in Rocky Mount, kind of who's who and what's what. Now, after the episode, we began to get messages from people from the city thanking us for the coverage, and they let us know that what we did over the course of that episode was something that a local activist had been fighting for years to expose in Rocky Mount.
Everybody know my dad, Samuel Rock. He meant so much to this city, you know, and he pushed for the kids. You know, he made an impact on everybody. You know, he did so much for the city, and I you know, it's unbelievable because I never thought my dad was a superhero like he was. So he meant a lot to the city. He loved what he did. He loved exactly what he did. I wish he was here to see that. It meant so much to me because I knew what he stood for. I knew exactly what he stood for. So it meant a lot to me. My kids, his grandkids, it meant a lot.
Do you want to see your kids live and stay in Rocky Mount, or would you prefer them to move away and go somewhere else, or do you want to see your family stay here?
I want to see my family stay here. I love Rocky Mount.
So before we started covering the story about the Rocky Mount NAACP and their allegations of racism against the state auditor's office, Rocky Mount really wasn't on our radar like that. Now, my brother had done some voter education events back in 2022 in the city, and we knew a few people there, but come to find out, Rocky Mount has a really interesting past.
Rocky Mount's story began in the early 1800s when it emerged as a vital railroad junction. The city's very name was derived from the Rocky Mounds that punctuated the terrain, serving as a guide for travelers and a gathering place for locals. The railroad's influence would go on to shape the destiny of the city as it facilitated the movement of goods, people, and ideas. The industries that flourished here, from tobacco to textiles, became the heartbeat of Rocky Mount. The city's growth was inexorably linked to the hum of factories and the bustle of commerce. As the nation evolved, so did Rocky Mount, finding its own rhythm amidst the backdrop of change. Rocky Mount's journey was not without its challenges. As the civil rights movement swept the nation, the city found itself at the crossroads of progress and tradition. Rocky Mount bore witness to the struggle for equality as its residents organized, marched, and spoke up against injustice. Today, the city of over 50,000 is facing a population decline, a rise in crime, and a challenging economy.
First thing I'm going to ask you about is, what was it like growing up here in Rocky Mount? What do you remember most being a kid and growing up here in Rocky Mount?
Growing up here, when I was coming up, it was safe. Like, the kids didn't run the city. It wasn't crime. Like, old people used to sleep with their back doors and front doors open, but now the crime is it's out of control.
When did you notice things start changing here in Rocky Mount?
I'd say, like, close to, like, 10 years ago. It's bad. Like, we was losing, I'll just say our young black youth. We was losing them like once every week or more than once. One day we had like 3 murders.
The one day here. And so when people think small town, they think Rocky Mount. Like you said, they think safe. But you're saying that's not the case so much anymore.
No, this is called Murder Mount.
It's called what?
Murder Mount.
Okay, that's not a nickname we heard yet, but okay.
Yeah, it's called Murder Mount.
Police in Rocky Mount have made an arrest in a deadly shooting at a Rocky Mount murder.
And 2 homicides within a few miles of each other. 2 children are recovering after being left behind in the same car. Their 24-year-old mother and a man were found murdered in.
2 people were shot and killed in Rocky Mount yesterday.
Rocky Mount police say that a 15-year-old boy was shot and killed last night.
3 shootings in broad daylight in less than a month.
3 recent shootings in the middle of the afternoon in the last few weeks. One of them, though, was deadly.
Tonight, 2 men are charged in the death of a local high school athlete.
A man was shot and killed inside a home in Rocky Mount.
As well this afternoon about a deadly shooting in Rocky Mount.
The average age that people live on this side of town is in their late 60s, as opposed to the other side of town in Nash County is in their late 70s. So we had to figure out a way to try to curb that number. Now you'll see some newer homes. That's an end result of the flood of 1999. We can focus as a community on those little small things, tagging cars that are in the yards that, you know, are not working and don't have the proper tags on them, making sure that the residents continue to keep their yards looking neat and straight. Those smaller things, if we can focus on those things, it'll only help crime as a whole. You know, some people think that those things don't work. Well, they actually do.
What are some of the things you love about Rocky Mount?
I think most of the people are real good. The leadership is bad. The workers in Rocky Mount get a bad rap, but I think that's probably misdirected anger. They should be angry at the leadership. And the council, they've been corrupt for years and been kind of a club that it had some, I think, some greasy palms. And one city manager they hired was a carpetbagger that actually had been fired from other jobs for having her hand in the cookie jar.
So the more we learned about what was going on in Rocky Mount, a lot of the allegations of corruption were being directed at City Councilman Andre Knight. Now, one of the earliest controversies surrounded a challenge to his residency in Ward 1.
Voters first elected Andre Knight to the Rocky Mount City Council in 2003.
Mr. Knight has succeeded in making a mockery of the electoral process for Ward 1 for a period of 4 years.
He said he was moving there to run for office.
His attorney argues this is Knight's primary residence, and the 2 Nash County homes in question are strictly for his family's adult care business. Noticeably missing from this hearing, any representative from Edgecombe County. Officials didn't submit a written brief either, so these judges heard just one side.
Now, even though this residency challenge was dealt with in court, people said that he really didn't live at that address. So we went to take a look, and what we saw was a boarded up house that really didn't look like anybody lived there. Now, there were other allegations of corruption, including shady real estate deals, his and other city council members' relationships to OIC, but what's really pissing people off in Rocky Mount were the results of the 2020 investigation by the North Carolina State Auditor's Office. Do you think there is corruption in Rocky Mount?
Oh, yes. I'm surprised. I mean, it's not like... You think of city corruption, you think of Chicago, and Mayor Daley Sr. and the dead people voting, but it goes on here. I mean, I don't know if dead people vote here yet, but that's probably in the cards.
Did you know that there was an audit conducted by the state auditor against the city of Rocky Mount?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you know that multiple city officials prevented the Business Service Center from attempting to collect $47,704 in utility bills owed by a city council member?
No.
Are you familiar with, or do you know anything about, or did you hear about the audit that happened with the city of Rocky Mount?
Yes. Concerning the light bill, I do. I know it was never paid. Bill is $47,704, and I guess because he's a city council member, he's not accountable or being held accountable for this bill.
The most powerful man in Rocky Best. Most powerful man in Rocky Best. Most powerful man in Rocky Best. Councilman Andre.
How dare you come down here and challenge us?
This whole audit or investigation, it was led by white supremacists. It was led by white supremacists to bring the state auditor in to overthrow the leadership here in Rocky Mount. That's an attempt to break the black majority, the black majority.
So one of the things me and my brother cannot stand, and it's almost one of the driving reasons we do the show and we do this platform, is this idea of race hustling. And a race hustler is somebody that uses the legacy of slavery and the legacy of Jim Crow and the legacy of the KKK to blame current situations and circumstances on. Now, we don't purport that there are no racists alive and that there's no racism, right? But to suggest in 2023, like that's being suggested here, that there's some systematic effort to hold black and brown people down is ridiculous to us. And every opportunity we get to dispel it and display the stupidity of it, we're gonna do that.
We are not fighting some disconnected incidents. We are fighting an institutional systemic problem. Given the racial history of the country, it was against the law for us to even read and write until 160 years ago. We were enslaved 246 years.
White supremacy transcends religion. I don't complain to the white supremacists. All of my messages are for the victims of white supremacy. All of my messages are for the victims of white supremacy. The white supremacists, the white supremacists, not the white supremacists, because you have white female supremacists too.
So men,
white supremacists.
Right.
Let's be very clear.
What
white
does it feel like to be?
You feel like a victim of white supremacy. You feel like a victim of white supremacy. You feel like a victim of white supremacy.
Institution all over this country and this city that don't want to see certain parts grow. Grants for people to fix their houses because of discrimination, It was 120 years that we became the majority, I'm sick and tired of my own kind coming here blaming us. Blame those who've been here generation, who took food out of your mouth and your grandma's mouth, and you sharecropped and worked on their farms and couldn't get no house.
So from the outside looking in, to us it looked like a textbook case of race hustling. You've got a 20-year city council member who's always surrounded by controversy, now claiming that white supremacy and racism are at the root of the state auditor's investigation. Now, we couldn't find any evidence to support that claim, but we did find a statement and what we think is a pretty ridiculous interview from the NAACP.
The NAACP tells me last year's controversial audit of Rocky Mount was motivated by white nationalists looking to unseat black elected officials. But so far, they haven't provided any hard evidence to back that claim up.
We've seen this before. We've been there before. We've done this before, and we have the T-shirt to prove it.
Today, the NAACP of North Carolina released a statement calling Senate Bill 473 racist legislation. The bill, which still needs to pass the House, would make it a felony for elected officials in cities to use their position for financial gain. It was introduced in response to an investigation in Rocky Mount last year from State Auditor Beth Wood, who found that Rocky Mount City Councilman Andre Knight used his position to have the city write off more than $47,000 in utility bills over a 14-year period. Reverend Dr. T. Anthony Spearman with the state NAACP tells me the auditor was unable to satisfactorily answer his questions about the motivation behind the audit when he met with her last year.
From our guts, we sensed that there was something else occurring.
He now believes both the audit and the bill are racist. I asked Spearman if he had any proof to support this, and he said he didn't, but that Andre Knight had told him personally, and Spearman trusted him.
It's something that I sensed from my gut.
But so far, they haven't provided any hard evidence to back that claim up.
Now, part of what we do at the Urban Conservative is help to dispel some of these narratives. So we wanted to address it directly with the state auditor. What can you say about the actual claim that you did this, one, because you're a racist, or two, that there's some sort of politicization of your decision to investigate or audit a municipality?
So if you go to my website, you will see a list of cities and counties that we've investigated and had findings. I cannot investigate stupid, but when it becomes an abuse of power or allegations of wrongdoing, allegations of misspending money, allegations of misuse of assets or credit cards, then that's when I take it on. And so to look at me and say that there's anything racist about me, it's the only thing you can turn to when you know my audit is right. 100% irrefutable. So the only place you can go, she must be a racist.
In the audit, my name was not mentioned.
The audit found tens of thousands of dollars were mishandled, including $47,000 in unpaid utility bills, according to the mayor, by City Councilor Andre Knight.
Names don't appear in audits. Would you mind telling everybody why or what the practice is of the audit of the office when it comes to investigations?
Well, it is the practice, and it has been for decades. We don't give out names. So even if you called me and the city council member's name is public information, we don't give out information that's available at the source. So in this case, the source of that name is the city of Rocky Mount. And so we just don't give out names. We're just not in that business. We are in the business of the position. And then if you want to call the city of Rocky Mount, or you want to call Edgecombe County, you want to call the town of Manio, find out who went to jail, do it. But we don't. It's been a practice for decades that we don't give out names.
In the audit, my name was not mentioned.
Knowing that the state auditor's job is to find out where people are not following the rules and not doing what they're supposed to do, how much of this do you think was motivated by the state auditor because the city council members are black? Do you think race had anything to do with it at all?
No, race don't have anything to do with it. They all cover each other back, from NAACP to city council to the police station to the sheriff to the judges to the lawyers to the DAs. Everybody cover each other back.
So even the people we spoke to in Rocky Mount seem to think that racism didn't have anything to do with the state auditor's investigation. Now, the question still remains, did he pay the $47,000, or are the people in Rocky Mount just stuck with the bill? And that's something else we decided to ask the state auditor about.
Did you not pay your utility bills?
I have paid my utility bills. I have paid my utility bills.
So those that were called out in our investigative report at Rocky Mount, we sat down with them and said, here are the findings, disprove it. So he said, I paid that. And I said, show us the receipts. We went to the city of Rocky Mount, sat down at their computers with their finance director, and we got read-only access. We went through the data and we found the $47,704 that was written off, and that number was audited by their auditor that they hired during that particular time. So then we said, you keep saying that you paid this, just show us. The city of Rocky Mount has no record you paid it, but you say you do. There must be some canceled checks. There must be some bank records of some sort. Show us. And he never, ever could.
That's a lie, and I challenge that. I have proof just like she do.
The citizens of Rocky Mount are absolutely on the hook for $47,704. You're never going to get it back. For everyone that's from Rocky Mount, the city of Rocky Mount was writing off $1 million a year for 24 years. They were writing off bad people that didn't pay utility bills. $1 million a year for 24 years, and that was as best we can tell.
I do want to tell the people of Rocky Mount this, because there's some questions in there. Could they do a class action lawsuit and all these different things? What you can do, as the auditor just told you, you're not going to get the cash back, but you don't have to vote for the guy. What are you doing? He's been there for 20 years. Come on. Hey, folks, don't vote for the guy. Can we try somebody new? I just had to throw that out there as a solution, possibly. Maybe.
This time I'd like to invite Abdul Ali to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Abdul Ali, and I'm here tonight not as a citizen of Rocky Mount, but as a concerned North Carolinian with a lot of friends and family members and their family members and people that I consider brothers and sisters in Christ that live in this city. I I'm here tonight to address you about a narrative that I've heard not just here, but across the state that's detrimental to the people. And thankfully, in the last few months, as I've been working here in Rocky Mount, I've heard that the people in this city are starting to wake up from this narrative. When we look at the fact that we have a majority black city council in this town and in many other places in our state, we have our first black lieutenant governor, we have a back-to-back black president, back-to-back black by bliggity, black out to black everything in our country right now. When this narrative that racism and the legacy of slavery is to blame for the issues facing our community, I'm here to tell you that folks are starting to snap out of it. And that while racism does exist in our country and while racism is an issue that does need to be dealt with, what we're seeing in our streets is that 22% voter turnout in the last municipal election in Rocky Mount. What that tells me is if we're in a room of 100 people and 22 get to decide who represents all 100, that's not right. When we talk about the young men in this town and the young women in this town that are being killed, they're not being killed by people who are wearing Klan hoods and running around here screaming, "Kill blackies." They're being killed by people that look like them. The disturbing part about all of this is that our education rates, our literacy rates, our suspension rates, the school to prison pipeline, these are real issues that require not only faith in God and praying that we can do the right thing, but they require that you as city council members do what's right by the people, but it also requires that the people of this city stand up and vote for what's right and make their voices heard, because nothing will change in this town or any other unless you all stand up and vote and you all as elected officials do what's right by them. Now, as somebody who served in leadership, I've chaired the 10th largest county in this state. I've worked at municipal governments. I don't envy the position a lot of times that you all are in, because I know you can't tell the public everything. But the more transparency you can give to the citizens of your city, this spirit of desperation, as I've driven around this city, my twin brothers come down from New York, it is a palpable sense of desperation that young people feel in this city and some folks feel here. So please know that while it is the people's job to hold you accountable, that they are praying for you, that they want you to do the right thing. And to the people of Rocky Mount, please stand up and don't let 22% voter turnout control what happens to your future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is your July 10th City Council wrap-up live video. The cool thing about this meeting was that everything was really short. There was really a short agenda, and that was kind of weird. So the interesting thing is that conspicuously absent from the meeting was Andre Knight and Ruben Blackwell. So interesting. And here's what I think the reason why is. So on Facebook, on some of the concerned citizens groups, it was put out there that Abdul Ali and his brother Raheem were going to be at the meeting. Now they have a blog called The Urban Conservative. It's like TUC, The Urban Conservative. And they have been calling out quite a bit of some stuff about Rocky Mount. And I saw it earlier that they were going to be at the meeting. And you know what? Based on the things that they talk about, I think it scared Andre and Ruben, and they didn't want to have to face them. I think they're cowards, and that's why they didn't show up. That is my opinion. That's my theory.
And I did not want it to be said again that I was afraid to be in a council meeting. I'm never afraid to be in a council meeting, or to address anyone that comes to this council, whether you come from Chicago, New York, or Charlotte. I'm here. I'm the same. So Councilmember Blackwell was not here, and I was not here because we was on OIC business.
Now, if you don't like the fact that you've been in office for 20 years, I don't live there, and nor do I have to live there to point out the fact that if you've been on the job for 20 years, okay, and things ain't gotten better, you own that failure.
All right. What role do you think, because the folks we talk to, everybody's kind of agitated with the city council, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
So in your words, what role have they played in the community not heading in the right direction, if you will?
I would say one of the roles is for better or for worse, the rhetoric has created a level of division within the city and the community. I think that is probably the most important thing, because when you use the rhetoric, then what you do is you shut out opportunities for the people in the community. There's a true thing. You can talk and ruin opportunities and ruin resources from coming over here to the community. And and it's okay if you're going to talk the talk and walk the walk, but when I look over your shoulder, I need to see growth and development happening. If you isolate, what has happened is the rhetoric has allowed a level of isolation to come to this particular area. Nobody wants to invest in an area where they feel like they have a council person or they have council people that are, quote unquote racist or saying racial things, or are projecting themselves to just focus on one group of people. You want to be able to have a message where you can continue to have pride in your community. If they're predominantly African American, that you can continue to have pride in your people. You can provide opportunities for growth for your people, but you can do that also by inviting other people to come in and be able to help you in that process too. And I think that that's where the rhetoric has allowed some people that have the wherewithal to come over here and be able to provide resources. It has turned them away.
I think if nothing changes, that they just had a building fall down and crumble to the ground, maybe like a year into me staying here, that's just completely hazardous. I think that the buildings are going to be crumbled into the ground. Nothing's going to be done. You cannot create any more extra commerce if you're not building up and taking care of what you got. I think that if they were to allow other people, fresh minds to come in there and say, hey, let's implement this change and this change and this change. Hey, we don't have any attractions here. Nothing's telling somebody to say, hey, come on to Rocky Mount for this, because you don't have a this in your hand. You need a this, right? It's not a tourist attraction. It's just a place where people come. These are some of the hardest working people I've ever seen. These people work hard in Rocky Mount, but for what?
So this doesn't sound like to me a town where you got some evil white people trying to oppress black folks and keep them down.
No, it's our own. It ain't them. It's our own. Our own is the hindrance. It's our own who they have in seats. And I'm not racist by far, but I could tell you I could go to the other side of us and they'll help me quicker and have helped me quicker than us. That's what I say.
So, because when we watch those city council meetings and we hear them say, oh, it's because of 400 years of racism, like,
no, it's not racism.
That ain't got nothing to do with it.
No, okay. It's the ones they put in seat that abuse their power and abuse their position.
What do you think it was his biggest issue? What was the thing he was fighting for the most, do you think?
The kids. He was fighting for the kids. Because so much was going on in the city. People had said this, that about him, but he just, he gave it all he had. He pushed so hard. I know he pushed so hard for the kids that, so this city can be better, and that's what he wanted. Give the kids something to do, Get them something to do, because they don't have nothing to do. So if you get them something to do, I'm pretty sure it'll make a difference. It'll make a difference in this city.
So over the last few months while making this documentary, my brother and I met an amazing group of people who really care about the future of the city of Rocky Mount. Now, we made this film not only to call out the corruption we saw in Rocky Mount, but to serve as an inspiration for others to call out corruption when they see it. Now, is Rocky Mount going to continue down the path of controversy and corruption, or is the city going to live up to its true potential?
That's something only time can tell for the city that calls itself the center of it all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can watch this film back live. Not live. You can watch it at tuconservative.com. Head over to tuconservative.com/TUC docs if you live in the city of Rocky Mount or wherever you see corruption going on. Share this with some folks. We appreciate everybody's support during the making of this and everybody that participated. We out of here. Peace.